The lesson identified or labeled as interpreting and preparing visuals. Visuals can be classified as graphs, tables, diagrams, charts, visual images, and maps. Among these, this afternoon, we are going to focus on charts, tables, and graphs. Generally, what are the steps in interpreting visuals? First of all, you should read the title and the subtitle if there's one. Second, you read, it's not read the captions, it's read the captions, keys, and labels. If there are labels, if there is anything to below that graph or that visual to tell you of what's found there, you should of course read it. That's the purpose of the caption. You determine the purpose of the material, you identify the organization of information, analyze relationship of details, and then make a conclusion about the data if necessary. To start, we have a chart. How do charts look like, or what is a chart? Let's try to begin with that. A chart is a graphical representation of data using symbols, and these are usually in boxes, lines, and in arrows. The general purpose of which is to show ranks, levels, procedures, or classifications. In fact, we could have an organizational chart as a sample type of chart, or a flow chart. An organizational chart is one that presents rankings, classifications, or levels of ideas, while a flow chart presents the process or the direction of steps, how things are supposed to be done, or how things are supposed to go to. That's more appealing to be presented with the use of a flow chart. Steps in preparing these two, you can have the steps in preparing the organizational chart and the steps in preparing a flow chart. When you have an organizational chart for you to make, you should use varied shapes carefully. It's use varied shapes carefully. Rectangles are usually used for all positions. Of course, there are so many available organizational charts that you can create. You can also download. You created one when you were in grade 11. Grade 11 classroom, at the back, there was an organizational chart that you presented. That organizational chart contained what kind of information? What was found there?
Class officers.
Your class officers. So that's a form of a visual in itself. That's the organizational chart. Then you have the flow chart. In a flow chart, there are also particular images or shapes that you can also use, but you have to be very careful in using them. For instance, the rectangle. This is not necessarily absolutely true to all flow charts. Take note how the sample shapes that you have there are not absolutely true in terms of application to all flow charts. But those shapes have these general functions. Like if you have a rectangle, you use that to refer to an event which is part of a process, like a step or an action that's going to be taken. If it's a diamond, then it shows a decision point in the process that's more or less leading to a yes or a no. So the diamond will be placed at the center. If the decision is a no, it leads to somewhere else. If the decision is a yes, it leads to something else as well. Then there's a rounded box. This is used to represent an event which occurs automatically. When you did your research, there was an attempt of creating a flow chart. What was it? In your PR2 output, there was one thing there which resembled a flow chart. What was it, Majoy? PR2, you created a visual which kind of resembled a flow chart, as it tried to show the flow of information, the flow of not, I would not want to use the word process, the flow that you want to follow in the accomplishment of your research work. There's only one page in that research last year, Majoy, that showed something like a chart. What is it? What is that part?
Theoretical framework.
Did you term that a theoretical framework? Was it your term?
Schematic diagram.
Schematic diagram. What's found in the schematic? What flow of information are you referring to? Let's go back to that part. Wait. Where if I raise this, are you looking at your left? Okay. Wait, but this is my right. So this is my left. This is my left. Just follow my left. On the left side, you have there the theories and concepts. On the right side, you had the legal basis. All of those information contribute to the existence of your variables. Oh, that's the flow of information. And then from the variables, you try to determine what you wanted to do about them. So you created now, you went with correlating or finding significant differences, which upon reaching that decision of either a correlation or a significant difference, it went further into defining recommendations. But there's a flow of information that you could identify from that flow chart or schematic diagram that you had in practical research too. Perhaps the most familiar visual to students is the table. A table. How does it look like, or what is a table? It is one that's quite useful in displaying numbers in columns. So a table will have a column and a row. It condenses and classifies information to make comparisons between and among data, which at the same time helps the readers grasp relationships that might be invisible in prose. So when narratives cannot present the information or the relationship, you have the table that could show that to you. Remember in the results section, if you look at the format for IMRAD, you've been told that when the table is enough or when your visuals are enough to present the results, a narrative may not anymore be necessary. Be reminded of that. If your table is sufficient enough to tell us of how plants have grown in the passage of 10 days, 15 days, then there's no need to present things in narrative. That is why, again, these relationships might be invisible in prose because you don't have to present them in words. Because the numeric presentation, the tabular presentation, is more than sufficient for that need. Strategies in reading a table. You read the title of the table. That's why a table should have a label. If the table is not named, then you are blindly giving out a table for readers to read. Let there be a name or title of the table. When you did your PR2 researches, how did you name your tables? You name them as table 1 or table 2, 1.2. And then there are words that came after that, like table 1, responses of students regarding parental involvement. So by looking at that label, right away, the readers will be told that the information found in the table have something to do with parental involvement as perceived by respondents. Then you check whether the information is updated or obsolete. Sometimes there are tables who would really provide some information of the year that that table has been created or the data had come out. Check the source of information, study the headings, read the details, compare and contrast different columns. Then you have graphs. Graphs can come in varied types. You can have a bar graph, you can even have a line graph, or a circle graph, most commonly known as a pie graph or a pie chart. Line graphs, we'll begin with the bar graphs. Bar graphs can be horizontal or vertical bar graphs, depending, of course, on what you'll put on the axis, on the x-axis and the y-axis. Bar graphs are also more appreciated if they have come in colors or in designs, varying styles. That if your bar, I hope I brought the book. The book is not here. Oh, wait. I'll try to. Here's a sample. I'll get a bar graph, which I'll just show to you. Of course, you know how a bar graph already looks like. Here's a sample of a bar graph. This is a sample of a bar graph. Or here's another sample of a bar graph. Oh wait, it's not here. So this book only has one example of it. So from this example of a bar graph, you'll find that there are two kinds of information. The first one is on the number of years found on the x-axis, while on the y-axis, you'll find population in millions. So that's how bar graphs can supposedly look like. Like what I've said, people tend to appreciate bar graphs if they have come in variations or in varied styles. That instead of placing them plainly that way, it would help perhaps in terms of aesthetics, it would help perhaps if you would put in a more creative approach in the making of a bar graph than to just make it appear so blandly. A line graph. A line graph is used when we present trends and changes in data, how data changes from in the passage of time, from one point of time to another, like this. Oh wait, like that. That is a sample line graph. So you have particular period. Anyway, I'll give you samples later on through a share screen. You'll have there still two axes that are going to be used, the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis containing a particular information, probably, or if not most of the time, pertaining to time or year, while the y-axis will contain information of percentage, number of people, number of a particular amount. That is to see the trend or the movement from one point of time to another point of time. The last one is a circle graph or a pie chart or a pie graph, which is going to appear like a circle, then to be divided into several subsections. Each section corresponding to a particular proportion relative to whatever the goal of the pie graph is. Like for instance, you've been told to create a pie graph of the things that you do at home. And then to complete the pie graph, you are going to quantify these things that you do at home in terms of the number of hours that you invest working on these things. So you'll have one big circle divided into sections. The size of a particular section corresponds to the number of hours you spend doing a particular activity. So that's how a pie graph will supposedly look like. Let's try to have this activity. Let's try to have this. Wait ha. I'll share a screen. I'll do a quick share screen.
Wave speed, this is the one that I'm going to have in the formula because this is part of the module.
I hope you can see this.
The formula, frequency times.
Can everybody see this?
Wave speed depends on the medium still. It varies from
so for this activity, I'll give you some information set, and your task is to create the required graph or chart. We'll see what you've created and whether it should match with the expected graph or chart. Again, what you'll create there should match the expected graph or chart. We may vary, take note, we may vary in terms of our scale, I might have used a scale of 10, a scale with intervals of 10. You might use a scale in intervals of 5 or 1. Wow, if you'll do it in 1, then that's good. At any rate, our graphs and charts should have the approximate forms or shapes or sizes. Let's start. Hilda has collected several measurements and wants to record them in a double line graph. Like on trials, you have trials 1 to 6, mass for specimen A, mass is in grams. Then you have the column for the mass of specimen B, still the mass on grams. What will you put on the x-axis, the mass on grams or the trials? Grade 12, what will you put on the x-axis?
Trials, sir.
Trials, correct. While on the y-axis, you will put the mass on grams. Go. Create now your respective double line graphs. How will a double line graph look like? As the name suggests, there will be two lines. There will be two line graphs in that output. Create that, and then once you're done, show me your work through the camera.
Sir, is it okay if it's not that accurate?
It's all right, right? We are after approximately similar works, meaning your work should be similarly the same as that of the expected answer. Others are, if you cannot show me your answer, I will not give you extra points. Huh? Each correct answer here will be given 5 points. Since I have a lot of post-its, I can use them. Something like this will happen on Thursday. So to those who will not turn their cameras on, I don't know what to do with you. Are you done? It's all right if we will not arrive at exactly the same graphs because we will definitely vary in our intervals, in our scales. Okay. So for example, this problem, let's solve the speed. The speed is equal to 2 meters times 500 hertz. By the way, since it is a double line graph that you should create, be sure that one line graph is set to be distinctly different from the other line graph. How will you do it? You may have one line graph of a different color as the other line graph. Maybe the first line graph for specimen A, you'll use the color red, and for specimen B, you'll use the color blue. For as long as they will not look the same in terms of the color of the pen, or perhaps with the kind of line that you'll use. Maybe the line graph for specimen A will have a solid line, or the line graph in specimen B will have a broken line. And please do the identifying of the legend. Provide a legend. We would want to know what that line means, what that line represents. Therefore, if the period is given, then the formula for velocity is... Well, like said, wait. Don't show your answers yet because your classmates are still answering. I don't know if this will come up. If I mistakenly write, how will you show your answer, Miguel? Then the formula that we're going to use is divide the... How will you show your answer to me? You cannot insert a message in. Share screen, so I'll have to stop my share screen from time to time. Just flash it to the screen like this. Like, here's my line graph, sir. Oh, here's my line graph. So it's like
Sir, mo gamit ko lain ballpen po, sir.
I would suggest that, Nathan, so as to really set differences in the line graphs on how they would look like, and how they will appear.
Okay, lain ballpen, sir.
Or Nathan, you don't have to replace your pen. You can use different kinds of lines. Like what I said, you can use a solid line for specimen A and a broken line for specimen B. What's really important here is that you be able to, of course, define what that line tries to represent.
Ah, sige, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyway, this is recorded, so you can review the. Hopefully, I can post this. There are also ways in which wave behaves. In your module,
Ready?
how does behave wave? How does behave wave? How does wave behave? What is love? The first behavior of wave is wave tends to be reflected. Let us look at an example as a light. Light can bounce from a certain surface. Example of that surface is a mirror. If a surface is flat, then the angle of the reflection is equal to the angle of incidence. In this PowerPoint presentation, the term given is angle.
Ready?
That is the law of.
So that I can show you as well the answer. No changing of graphs, no changing of graphs. Do not change your... Miguel, wait, line graph, Miguel, not bar graphs.
No, those are lines, sir. My camera is just blurry. One is wavy.
What?
It's a line. See, one is normal, the other looks like Islam.
What are you
Wave.
creating?
Double line graph mo ka, sir. Like two lines.
Miguel, a line graph shows a trend. What you've created, Miguel, is similar to a bar graph, except that you're using a stick.
Angle of reflection. So that's the law of.
Wait, ha.
If the angle of incidence.
Sample line graph, Miguel, oh.
Then the angle of reflection is also 30 degrees.
Wait, I'll show something on this. I'll stop the sharing of the screen for a while. Miguel, sample line graph, Miguel.
Say this is the angle of incidence at 80 degrees. Then the angle of reflection is also 80 degrees.
There, oh. That's a sample line graph. This is not a double line graph, though. No, it is. It is a sample of a double line graph. We are using lines to show trends, like what happens from one point to another. That's how a line graph works. Ready?
Sir, the concert.
Sir,
The information. Sorry. There.
Sound waves can also bounce, right? And what incidents can you say that sound waves will bounce? Lian. Will you hear your own? You shout in the cave. You shout in the cave. What happens?
Okay. I think if you find one possible answer now, Miguel, you'll have an idea as to how to create the rest of the line graphs.
The bouncing of sound waves.
Grade 12. Let's just try. Wait. Are you done?
Almost, sir.
Almost is never enough. But how will you show your answer, Nathan, that your camera is turned off?
Wait, sir.
The first behavior of wave is they can be reflected.
Someday.
Okay, next. I did like that to the table, so that's why it's not. Next, behavior of wave. Wave can be refracted.
Ready?
Waves can bend. The bending of wave is known
You
as.
could take a picture of the information, no? You could, like seriously, you could take a picture of it, and then you don't have to raise your head all the time.
diffraction. This happens when the angle of incidence slightly changes when it
Let's try. Huh?
so from
Your
the
double line graph is supposed to look like this.
line there tends to
Wait,
bend
ready?
the image
Your double line graph is supposed to look like this. Again, supposed to look like. I did not say it should
diffraction is by the time
look this way. Look like lang because we're after approximations. It's supposed to look like this.
and class, if you put a pencil in a glass of water, the pencil
Look at your line graphs, people. Look at your line graphs.
and that is diffraction.
Okay. Show them to the camera. Closer. Wait. I'd like to start from the first. In my frame, I have Miguel. What is that, Miguel? Your answer is a lot. Miguel, when I said that your answer should have varieties of lines, it doesn't mean that you should have curved lines.
Particle enters
Wait.
the
Kapal eh.
liquid, it will slightly be
The other line, Miguel, has to be really fixed because the other line is really curved. They will still have to be straight lines, but probably you can use a broken line or a thicker line or a solid line
swimmers,
or a pencil.
no offense to them, the badyaw, they can
Benjamin, your output.
point you're going to toss it with a great
Okay. Oh, look at this one. Oh. If you could see the work of Benjamin, you will find there a broken line versus a solid line. Varquez. Right. Crisel?
that is another example.
Sir, kinakaso ko yun, naggagama. Sabi ko, bagama.
What did you-
So that's why ako nahuman. Pero kanaman na siya.
Where? Wait.
Wala ka di mao, sir.
Yeah. Wait, ha.
Example.
You can just
Oh.
go first, gigama kay.
bigger.
Where? Oh. Lexinette, your answer.
Can you see the red or I'll use my
Wait. Lexinette? Okay. Nina's camera is off. Majoy.
like the wave from sea.
Ay, that's wrong, Majoy.
As it is to hit an obstacle,
Raisa, your output.
diffracted.
Haha.
As it enters another obstacle, this
Oh,
wave
see,
will be-
we really vary in our scales.
so there's a
Take your eye. Nathan, your output.
hit an obstacle
Yes, sir. Nakalimutan ko legend.
Yeah, legend.
and
No more editing, hoy.
No more editing. Nicole, your output.
or will increase depending on the obstacle.
Oh, look at the line graph of Nicolo, so slim.
The obstacle is large.
Troy, your output.
Diffracted, there's a low diffraction. But if the obstacle is small, there's a large
Okay.
diffraction.
Miguel, I've given you 3 points for the output you've created.
Obstacle,
It's not really a 3. It's not a 0/5. I've given you 3/5 for that.
diffraction. If there is a
Let's have another one. Crisel, I'll give you 2 out of 5 for your output.
ways in which we can
The second one, people, be ready.
nullify the wave class. For example, there's
The data in the table shows sales at McNally's shoe store. Draw a line graph to show the data.
wave that is on a single direction,
Not a double line graph, but a single line graph now.
the same direction, then it will multiply the wave. It will extend, it will increase the frequency of the wave if they are on the same direction. But if there's a greater wave that is being met with a smaller wave, then the greater wave will be subtracted with its frequency. So muna siya affected kung magbangga ang the wave. But if two equal waves met at a certain point, what will happen is they will nullify each other. Okay, that is also one of the explanations on the law of incidence and detection for wave behaviors. Questions?
It's very short, huh? It doesn't have to really take long.
Module class, we have a few activities there. Some of the terminologies are not present in the module. I hope you are taking down notes like the p fraction, which is not part of your module, maybe I can indicate it there. And also the formula for
Ready?
velocity, which is lambda divided by period or b over b. So we have here some problems that we need to answer. For activity 1, just simply supply the correct information. And for activity 2, find the velocity given the following frequency. Just show it with, you can use a calculator even if you like, because these are the simple values.
If Ninya and Steve wish for their outputs to be scored, you should send your outputs at the same time that this will be before the answer is shown. Your outputs should be sent in our Edmodo page. You should send them to my Edmodo account before I show the answers. If they are shown beyond the time that the answer was also given, then sorry, they won't count.
Any concerns regarding some other?
That is if they wish to have a score for this activity. But if it's fine with them not to, then, but at least I've given you the option.
You have it in your report card.
Ready?
This will be a challenge to those who have a low grade. If you think
What will you put in the x-axis?
grade in
Months.
Months, correct.
if you think that this can be improved further, then
Why am I introducing this to you?
good.
Perhaps when you do the presentation of the results in the IMRAD format, you may not just use, or you may not rely so much on the use of a table. If you could find ways to present the data in this manner, other than using a table, then please do so. Be novel about the presentation of your data.
That you need to know. Some others might say this doesn't really work.
Ready? Let's now show the answer. So Ninya and Steve. This session is recorded, no? Is it? Wait.
Hard worker. So those are
It's recorded. For the record, it's 2:23. At this time, you should have sent you should have sent your answers before 2:24.
from the teachings here today. As a grade 7, as a junior high student,
You should send your answers at 2:24.
high school student,
Do your best there, Steve, to send it at 2:24.
freshman at the junior high department, we should be aware of
Here's the answer, people. Here's the answer.
So I challenge
That's how it's supposed to look like.
to give it their best.
Okay. Miguel, where's your answer?
The first grading, then this second grading, let's try our best to impress me, impress your parents, and impress yourself.
Miguel?
The first one to be impressed is yourself before anyone else. Impress yourself.
Where's
and
Miguel?
do better than
Miguel isn't saying anything. Your answer, Miguel?
My congratulations as well for those who
Miguel has no answer. What about wait. Okay. Miguel, show your answer now.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Miguel, your answer?
Sige.
Troy, where's
Wala
your
ko answer, sir.
okay. Troy, your answer, Troy.
The big and the fall, we have 6.
Closer, please, to the camera, Troy. I can see it clearly. Okay.
I crossed out the month, sir.
Yeah.
Would you like me to
Nicole, answer.
in this model slide? We can review the PowerPoint. Okay, I'll close the PowerPoint so that we can review with the
Okay.
So that will be all for today then.
Raisa, answer.
And goodbye, grade 7.
You're putting them so close together, I know. Nathan, answer.
Bye bye, bye bye. Bye bye.
There. Majoy, answer. That's still wrong, Majoy. Why are you wrongly creating graphs, Majoy? Okay, correct. Benjamin, your answer. Where? I cannot see it, Benjamin. Benjamin, higher, Benjamin Haji. Higher, higher. There. Okay. The last one for this afternoon. Here's the last one.
Ano ko, sir?
Yes, Lex. Here, the table shows how the 5th grade class's field trip fund grew over 5 weeks. Make a line graph to represent the data. So this afternoon totals to 15 extra points. On Thursday, there's something else that's going to happen. So I'll ask you to look at a particular graph or chart, and then I'll be throwing in some questions. The answers to which can be found in the graph or chart. Make it quick, it's 2:26.
Sir,
Yes, Miguel.
President,
Yes, Miguel.
where do we place the amount in fund? X or Y?
So as to set the trend, the funds or the amounts in the funds will be placed on the y-axis. The weeks will have to be placed on the x-axis, and that is to really show that there's a trend from week 1 to week 2. Again, we are after approximations, how your line graph is going to approximately look like relative to the answer that I'm going to show.
Can you show answers na, sir?
Let's give your classmate. In 1 minute, I have to see your answers na. Time check is 2:28. When it reaches 2:29, you'll have to show your answers. Nina and Steve, be sure to send the image of your answers to my Edmodo page, to my Edmodo account at this time, such that at 2:29, you're not anymore going to send anything. Okay, it's 2:29. Show your answers. This is the end. This is how the line graph is supposed to look like. Benjamin, can you show your answer, please? Wait. There, okay. Crisel, how does your line graph look like? Why did it curve? Why do the 3 points kind of curve? Marquez, Dulauta, Crisel, Dulauta, Alex. Next group, we have Dolohol, Juan, Mamakos. Dolohol did not get anything right this afternoon.
Sir.
Next group, Golosino, Orasyon, Apale. Apale, Orasyon. Okay, thank you. Expect for more of this kind of activity on Thursday. But then, aside from that, there's another kind of activity where I'll show a graph or chart, and that you are going to answer the questions that I'm going to throw in, and these questions, the answers to these questions can be found in the graph or chart. Goodbye and thank you, grade 12.
Goodbye and thank you.
Goodbye and
and thank you,
Goodbye and
Sir
thank you.
Sim.
Goodbye and thank you, Sir Sim.